Well, you want to try and start it?
Yeah, right now.
Number 30 is Dave Marcis of Wausau, Wisconsin.
A lot of things went on in those days that the people don't know about. A lot of good history. That's why I can't understand why they wouldn't want this museum here. I mean, goodness gracious, it's hard to believe. Hard to believe.
When you said Benny Parsons walked up to this car and he's like, that's an old Dave Marcis car, how did he know that it was?
He walked up, we were at Miami, and we had it down there in the garage, and it was between the two garage sections or whatever, and I had it sitting there. Benny walks up, and he's standing there, and you know, he's taller, and he kind of does this, he looks down, and he goes by like that, and he looks back at whoever he was talking to and said, that's old Dave Marcis car, just that fast. And so, well, he knew.
Well, I don't know the tape on the steering wheel, but you see this box right here?
Yeah.
We used to be able to adjust the torsion bar on the left side of the car from inside the car. And then, of course, eventually NASCAR made us rivet them down so we couldn't. They would, when we go through inspection, they'd check to make sure that those were riveted down so we couldn't adjust the torsion bars. On the earlier Chrysler products all had that.
Interesting.
Any of the cars at Petty Enterprises, as far as I can ever remember, didn't have that adjustment. That was, I think, a Nichols Engineering thing. The guys could hand me a ratchet and I could adjust the wedge in the car by raising or lowering this side of the car.
What else in here would have made it obvious that it was a Dave Marcis car and not somebody else's Nichols car?
Well, I know the spacers under the rear springs, Todd looked, there should be 1-inch spacers above the spring shackles on the back. And that was to put more rake in the car, more body rake. Yeah, see there's a spacer up here. It's painted black now, but that's 1 inch thick. That raised the body of the car and put more rake in it. And see the springs in Chrysler, we had like there were the springs were numbered in sets of 3, and the rate was the same on them, but the arch in the spring was different. Like a 44 spring, if we had one, would have been a 1-inch rake, and a 45 2 inches of rake, and a 46 would have been 3 inches of arch in the spring. So I could raise the back of this body. I had to change the springs. We didn't have no screw jacks.
Which springs are on here right now? Can you see the number on them?
Huh?
Which springs are on the car right now?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I cannot read the number, no. But that's how we put more rake in the body. Yeah.
It's a good floor to roll around on. Nice and clean.
Yeah,
Easy to slide.
So a lot of them wouldn't have had that 1-inch spacer in there.
What I'm trying to figure out is what happened to this car for the 30 years between Dave driving it, or I guess it was like 10 or 15, between Dave driving it and you getting it to make it into a goodies show car. What was it doing?
See, I sold this car to a guy in Milwaukee by the name of Donnie Danielewicz. And I can't remember what year that was because it was in my shop. I kept it and I needed the money. And he called me after he had it for about 5 or 6 years. I think he lived with his mother. They were moving or something, so he wasn't going to have a garage to put it in. And he called me and said, do you want the Wayne car back? He said, I'll give it to you. And I said, Donnie, I don't have no room for it, no place to store it. And I said, do you want to maybe put it in a museum? And he said, yeah, I'd love to. So I called Don Naiman and asked if they'd want to put the car in the museum at Talladega. And Don said, yeah, absolutely. So I called Donnie Danielewicz back, and I said, Donnie, they'd love to have the car in the museum. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, we're running the Atlanta race this weekend. I'll call down there and I can get you some passes for the race to come in the garage and stuff. Why don't you come to the Atlanta race and then Monday go take the car to Talladega? So he said, well, that would be nice. I'd love to do that. So he did that. Well, that weekend when the car was sitting on the trailer, in the infield at Atlanta, Little Bud Moore seen the car and ended up talking to Donnie Danielwitz and buying the car. Then I guess he brought it home, and he's the one that sold it to Goody's Headache Powders.
It was a combination. I know.
And then Goody's Headache Powders used it in
My aunt.
in all of the pre-race promotions with a 43 on it, and they drove it around. That's this car.
That's when we redid it. Yeah.
Right.
So my aunt, Ann Llewellyn, Spencer owned Goody's Headache Powders, and we got it. If I remember right, I remember seeing it on the trailer. It had a for sale sign. It had $2,500. They told me they wanted to buy it to use it for the show car. They were actually using an older 40 style car for a show car for
Yes,
Goodies,
sir.
and that's where it started. So I've
and
got.
See, they always helped Richard, and so they had it painted up with Goody's Headache Powders on it and 43 on the door.
Right.
So Richard didn't have a Dodge. Richard ran Plymouth.
Right. And then, I wasn't really sure if it was a Dodge by Petty or what. And then as time went along, and Tim Walker had told me that Ray Nichols, and then I saw the story,
right,
kind of put it together. So it was a Goody show car for a decade. It was in the warehouse about 8 years, and then I took it and figured out, I said, this is what I'm gonna do with it. I'm gonna create and use it for the Victor Lap deal. So we did that, and then it's been in the museum since 2005.
Yeah.
So but I remember the open trailer with the for sale sign, and it had $2,500 on it.
Wow.
And I've got pictures.
What a deal.
I've got pictures of it that I found yesterday for you, that you can see how it looked before and after. But it was painted 43 on the door when we got it. It had 43 on the door.
Yeah.
Because you can see it was your color. It was a little darker than your what I'd call powder blue. It was a little bit darker.
Yeah, my blue was a little bit darker than Richard's.
Yeah.
See how I become running blue race cars. When I was a kid growing up in Wisconsin, and the only thing I knew about racing, I would read in Hot Rod magazine.
Right.
And Richard Petty, I always liked blue, and Richard's cars were blue, and I was always a big fan of Richard Petty's. And I mean, we ain't that far apart in age, but you got to remember, I'm 1,000 miles up the road, and the only thing I could find out about any racing, my dad had a garage and a wrecking yard, but was in Hot Rod magazine. I could buy that in a newsstand.
Yeah.
So I'd read in there about NASCAR racing, and especially at Easter time at Hickory. I remember in those days they raced. And in Wisconsin, we were shoveling snow yet. And I ran short tracks up there, and I wanted to get involved in racing. I would always try and read in Stock Car Racing magazine, Hot Rod magazine, how fast they were going on what size racetracks, to see if I thought that maybe if I went down there, if I could do that,
Well, that's how.
I guess you did.
That's how everybody follows their dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's I didn't have the money to come down here racing. When I went to Daytona the first time, I didn't have $100 in my pocket.
You remember Ed had made a cover for it. That's the way the batteries.
Yeah, I think that got put in there probably when they started using that at Goody's Headache Powder or something, maybe.
No, when I got it, that was the way it was.
Oh, it was. Huh?
I mean, it came from Atlanta to 876 North Liberty Street, half a block down, straight down.
See, in those days, all the body parts in these cars were stock. I mean, like them wheel wells and everything are all stock wheel wells over the wheels and stuff.
Did you get this car? Was it a body in white did you build it new?
No, it was built at Nichols Engineering,
but it wasn't a Daytona. It was just a Charger.
It wasn't a Daytona.
But it was originally built at Nichols, then it went back to Nichols to be converted.
Yes, it's a Nichols Engineering car.
Right.
And when Milt Lunda bought the A.J. King Enterprises team out of Severieville, Tennessee, this was one of the cars.
Because I wasn't ever really sure. I saw the video and I was trying to understand, was it built as a Daytona originally, and then when you said you took it to Nichols, it was originally built by Nichols and converted by Nichols, which is...
Yeah, Ronnie Householder from Chrysler Corporation had me take the car up to Nichols Engineering in Highland, Indiana, before that first Talladega race, and they made it into a Dodge wing car at Nichols Engineering.
So what got changed at Nichols to make it a Dodge
The deck lid,
deck lid?
the back glass.
So was it changed through here on the,
Yeah, they
I can see where-
had pieces that,
that insert?
before
Yeah.
it was a regular 69 Dodge Charger.
Right.
So this whole big piece here was an insert that went in. See, the deck lids before were way up here.
Okay.
So these have this real
back.
short deck lids.
So y'all had to put the insert in and then do the package panel. That's
Yeah, I had a new back glass and this piece and the deck lid
then
and
the
the
inner-
wing on the back.
in the inner package panel to match up to the bottom of the windshield.
Yeah, we had to do some work on that, yeah.
Is that where the old window bed was? Kind of where that
Yeah.
piece ends?
And then, of course, the stuff on the front, you know.
So these were chrome, and I re-chromed them. I took them down to Piedmont Airlines, down at the Smith Reynolds Airport. They had a chroming machine and had them re-chrome them for me. The chrome would chip. Were they originally chrome when
Yeah.
you got it? Or Nichols did?
I'm not sure.
I always wondered that. I didn't know, but they had a chroming shop that they
Either
basically.
that or, yeah, they probably, whatever Chrysler probably had them with the kit, you know.
Okay.
When
That
Nichols put the kit in.
explains that. And then I noticed in the trunk, we had it open, there's the cables.
Yeah, I see the little cable corner
Yeah,
coming
well,
over
that
here.
was to keep these wings in case of an accident from flying up in the
So I
grandstand.
put new bolt.
They go across and through the whole wing.
Right. So we had it off and I put it back together. I put new bolts on it. That
Yes,
was
sir.
you
Yeah.
see, with the
Yeah, that
double washered it.
that was in case of an accident. This
Yeah.
stuff didn't go flying around.
So that was pre tethers.
Yeah, the early
That was all
tether.
Original.
So I still don't know what Benny Parsons looked at in here and knew that
the
it
seat.
is it the
He
seat?
looked at the seat.
Is that your seat?
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked at the seat. I mean, that's exactly what he said. He looked in there and said, "That old Dave Martin," and he was looking at the seat. He didn't even look at the dash or anything. He just looked at the seat.
Yeah.
When we took it over to England and put some rubber there on the bottom of the floors.
And see, it had a black ignition box before. This is one of the only Chrysler cars that had a GM distributor in it and ignition, electronic ignition.
So, question about your foot block there, the carpeted block.
Look, this one,
Yeah.
that is so we could adjust the torsion bar,
Okay.
which NASCAR used to make us rivet them down so we couldn't be
Okay.
adjusting it during the race.
I thought it was when you were out for a Sunday drive and you were just putting your foot up and resting it.
No,
I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Why? But it had carpet on it, so I put carpet back on it.
yeah.
What's under it?
It's the torsion bar adjuster.
Is it like
Well, NASCAR made us rivet
Yeah.
them down to keep us from being able to adjust that torsion bar during the race.
So, second question: did it always have an ignition switch? Because when I got it, it had an ignition switch.
You know, I don't know about that. I don't think so. I think we just had a toggle switch.
Yeah, we Ed before we took it to.
Yeah, we didn't have no key.
Well, that's just funny. It's the first race car I'd ever seen with a key.
Maybe they put
the IROC
that
cars
in
had
there.
a key in the
Oh,
70s?
well, I'm not about NASCAR. I'm not about NASCAR.
They might have put that in there, you know, when they was using it.
When I got it, it had a key.
And somebody
It was
couldn't
funny.
hop in at
And then there was
right away.
the other hole right there. I can't remember what was. Well, it was possibly 4 that was in the dash. So,
Well,
yeah, to the right of the ignition
Well-
switch. Be careful.
probably was a starter button there, and the one was a key on and off.
Well, climb in there and don't hit that switch yet because it's in gear. Let's get you in there. Hey.
Next headline: Dave Marcus drives through the Stuttgart Museum wall.
Man, you gotta go slow so you can get you on film. News at 11. All right.
Yeah.
You got it in gear, I think, Ed, right? And you make sure it's a new. Oh, I know. I was just saying, I didn't know if it was or wasn't.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
Feels pretty good.
Figured on Main Street.
Let's knock her in neutral. Make sure you're good in neutral. And it's an honor to have you start this car. let's hit that
Oh,
switch.
you want to try and start it?
Yeah, right now. Put the clutch in and see if it'll go.
You might have to turn that switch on.
Oh.
Oh, I
Just
see.
yeah, we have a safety switch on it.
We're ready to go.
Let's go, Nate. Let's go. What does it feel like after not being in it? And
I'll tell you something else. Before this car was a wing car. Well, no, it was a wing car then already. I'm the only guy that ever ran a wing car at Martinsville. You remember that?
I do. I've read that. I have read that. I think there's a picture of it.
Yeah.
There's a picture of the wing car at Martinsville, and I think it's they wrote a story saying it was only wing car.
Well, we went there and
Yeah.
qualified, and
But you weren't.
my short track car had gotten wrecked or something. So this was all I had to take there. And so I took this wing car there, and then the race originally got rained out, and I'm like, good, I'll be able to get my short track car done, you know, go back next weekend. And Bill Gazaway said, you can't do that. You have to run the car you qualified. So I raced the car at Martinsville.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So it wasn't only a super speedway car. It was.
Yeah, I
Short track
think it's the
car.
only wing car that I'm aware of that ran in a NASCAR race on a short track. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So did I do a good job 20 years ago rewrapping that steering
Yeah.
wheel?
Feels good.
I made Ed put a little pad and a nose pad in there. I thought I might need it in Goodwood.
90 days, I used to
Yeah.
But what did it have in the center? Because all it has is the what?
Yeah, that's all we had was a
Okay.
pad like that.
Okay.
Put a snap on it like that, yeah.
What do you feel like? You want to go drive 200 miles an hour? We'll get the highway patrol and clear the interstate 40.
There you go.
And you can drive her home. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Made my day.
So what's going to
Maybe.
happen to the car? I mean, what?
So you have to send the king and the queen with the pawns to fight the war. For me, the love of the car, but the driver makes the car.
Yeah,
The car is just a machine.
right.
So yeah, it's that piece with
Yeah.
it's that piece with all the cars.
It's the physical representation of someone's story.
Yeah, I mean it's just like, you know, Dale's car. I've got one here, got one in the shop at Welcome or whatever. You remember, just like you remember who helped you get or gave you the dreams, and you remember who got you there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a shame.
You didn't hear no more about it.
It still feels real good.
Got right in and out of it with no problem.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm pretty positive this was the car that Pete Hamilton drove. And in the Daytona 500, I don't remember what position he was running in. He got in, there was a wreck, and he wasn't in I don't think the initial wreck, but to avoid it, he had to spin out or something and went down the apron.
It's on at Pete Hamilton's car number 1. You can't see the car. There it is. Car number 1 is out of there.
And when the nose of the car hit the offset of the apron and the racetrack, it knocked this wheel up in the wheel well, and this starter solenoid right here, it came up and hit that. And it knocked this hot wire here up against this brace on the firewall, shorted it out, and Pete couldn't get the car started. Well, he didn't really know what was wrong with it. So they hooked the wrecker to it and pulled it over and put it against the big sandbank in turn 2 at Daytona and left it sit there the rest of the race. And after the race was over, because this was Milt Lunda's car at the time, because he made a deal with A.J. King, before the race. I went over there and opened up the hood and was looking around and hit the starter button and it wouldn't work. And I looked over here and seen that up against the brace there shorting up. And I bent it back down, got it in the car and started it up and drove it back to the pits in the garage area.
Wow. That's wow.
In fact, when I first started driving for Harry Hyde, and in '75 we were at Rockingham, and A.J. Foyt was there running. I can't remember whose car he was in that day. I lapped the field in 100 laps at Rockingham. And when I came off the racetrack on the pit road with the K&K Insurance Dodge, I was going too fast, I guess, and the tire came up and hit starter solenoid on that K&K Insurance car. And I stopped in the pit and we couldn't get that car started back up. We didn't know what was wrong with it. It was that solenoid bent up against that.
Same thing.
Yeah.
It still has them aluminum blocks in them rear springs.
Huh?
The rear, them
Oh, they're
spring
right there
blocks.
too? Yeah.
They're in there.
The only thing I ever changed was put 4 shocks, fresh gas, and 2 new batteries in 30-some years. Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
He just started talking stuff, and I'm like, I'm just gonna turn the camera on because he's just gonna
No,
go.
it's great.
You see, these are the original light shocks, but then, Chrysler had Monroe make some special shocks for the wing cars, but not right away. It was later.
When I went and got those, this was like 1980. These have been on there since '86.
Right.
And I remember going to Twin City Motor Company down the street here to the guy and said, "Hey, I need 8 shocks." And he said, "Huh?" I said, "I need 8 shocks that are the same as these," and he found them.
The shocks on the back are longer lengths.
Right.
So these are there was a series.
Yeah, the long. Yeah.
We had a 76, a 77, and a 78, and the 78 was the toughest shock.
Right.
And the short shocks went on the front and in the back, and then there was like an 86, 87, and an 88, and they're longer, the shock
Right.
bodies.
Yeah, you can tell just looking at.
But the shocks that they made later to run on some of the Chrysler products they're a different shock. It's Monroe shock yet, but it looks a little bit different.
Right.
But these were the original shocks.
That was really it. I took this car to Goodwood this year, and I had to put in dated seat belts. So I got the original seat belts that were in it.
Oh, okay.
And put back in it. So I've got those. Other than the paint and 8 people to take the motor out and put the motor back in to paint it.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think we ended up just going.
I'm pretty
through
sure this
everything.
is the engine that Dewey Livengood built.
So the steel wheels, they're original to the car when I got the car.
Yeah, well, they're not the
Well,
wheel that we had then.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, but they were the ones on it, and I got it, and they look good. If you take the tire off, they're not truly
Yeah.
round. There's just a little bent on them.
Yeah.
But
We couldn't do this in those days. We could not have any way to duct fresh air into a car.
right. So when
So
did that?
somebody
It was on the car when I got it because I told them it was a golf ball catcher.
See, I wish Dewey might be able to answer this, but Roger McCluskey, the IndyCar driver,
Right.
drove a couple of my cars in some USAC races. And that might have got made and put on there because in the USAC they could have fresh air coming in.
Gosh. So why didn't it have under the have the hole? Why was the hole never opened up for the tires to help cool the tires?
I don't think originally,
Would they let you? I always wondered that. Why they?
yeah, I think that was scoop was on there. I
the
don't ever
scoops-
remember it
yeah.
being open.
Yeah, I was just saying. I never understood why they didn't ever open it.
Maybe NASCAR wouldn't
Yeah.
let us. I'm not
Okay.
sure about that.
That was one of my, when I got the car and I called Cotton, one of the greatest stories ever. I called him, I said, "Hey, I'm redoing this car for Goodies to do a show car." And I said, "It's got vinyl on the top of the dash and wood grain on the face of it." I said, "Is that right?" And he said, "Will, it's absolutely correct." I was like, I thought that was something somebody had done. And I've got some great pictures I found yesterday of the car when I first got it. And it's painted spray bomb black on the inside.
Yeah, all my cars were flat black.
Yeah, the spray. I call
Inside.
it spray bomb black.
Okay. Well, we didn't want nothing shiny in there, and a lot of the cars in those days were flat black, and flat black paint was really cheap, so you could cover a lot of material with pretty cheap.
So Bobby Moody, one of the Flying Aces. Do you remember Bobby Moody? Worked for
Yep.
RCR, worked for Dale, one of the first original ones. Bobby would come help me at night, work on the cars, and we were either working on a Winston show car, or goodies, or working on one of Ed's race cars. And Bobby and I were up there, and we didn't let Ed sand. He didn't like dust or Bondi. We're sanding the side of the car. And I get down about, Bobby's on one side and I'm on the other side. It's like a race down, and we're both on stools and we can see each other. And I get to the door and I'm sanding, and all of a sudden yellow starts showing.
Yeah.
And I keep sanding, and I keep sanding, and I keep sanding, and I keep sanding, and I found the 30.
Number 30.
That's
Yeah.
how I knew then. And I've got one of your little cars.
See that?
That's how I knew.
There's a magazine with all the wing cars in it, and this car was on the cover of that magazine.
I'm not a hoarder, but when I was looking through the stuff, I found this, and Dave was talking about that magazine, and I remembered I had it in the back, and I had a sign
I
of it
can't
trying to
remember.
lay
I
it
got
flat
one of the
again.
magazines.
But it was it's an uncut sheet
Postcards.
of postcards.
Yeah.
And
With the driver's pictures on the back.
With all the birds in the Daytonas.
And that is this car? Or is
Yeah.
it one that's like this car? Was there only one Dave Marcis wing car?
Yeah.
And it's this one.
Yeah. But look,
See, I had the Goodyear sticker.
yeah,
It's up high too, as if it were your hat.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I thought that's like,
And see, in those days too, you know, we had to have the glass in the cars. And those windows had to roll up and down.
and I was going to ask you about that because so 71 they did away with the roll-up windows, right?
Well, we had that bad accident at Daytona, and that Talmadge Prince was his name, maybe?
Right.
He got killed, and they couldn't get at him in that car. All the windows was rolled up. And
Right.
Bill Seifert was involved in that
Yeah, I
accident.
remember that. Yeah.
And after that, yeah, they changed that rule. But yeah, we had to work on these days. I'd work at my shop at night trying to get all that window rolling up stuff in there to make them windows go up and down.
So yeah, 69, 70, and then 71, I noticed the windows were gone. So
Yeah,
that-
because see, all of them got the glass, and see that back glass is in there. Now see, that's USAC. You know, I don't know if Don ran that car in a NASCAR race. He must have, huh?
Can you tell that's USAC because it's got the window scoop there?
Right, and see, there's the window scoop. See it?
Right there.
Yeah.
Because he ran USAC.
Okay. But
So then
that's a
this-
different
So I
car.
doubt that he got, yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
Don White. That's who
Yeah,
that
so,
is.
but he's got the scoop.
And I doubt that he didn't run that car in the NASCAR race, not with that window scoop on there.
Right.
NASCAR wouldn't allow us to vent no fresh air in the cars back in those days. We had to just tough it out.
Well, they want to separate the man from the boys.
Yeah, they did.
That's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unlike today, you got air conditioning, power steering,
everything.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
That thing, I had it in England back in July, and it's a hoss. But I will tell you, there were 300,000 people came through there over 4 days, and that was their number one.
Really?
They loved it. That thing, I don't know if it'll run or not. We might have to try it here in a little bit, see if it'll start. It hadn't been started. Ed started it.
2003.
Well, 2003. It had not been started since 2003.
Wow.
We started it in May.
Well, see, I don't know what
May
spark plugs would be in it now, but
Yeah.
you really,
May or June. Last time it had Timmy Petty look at it. And one thing I've noticed about it, that if you stand on one side, it sounds a little different than the other side. And Timmy Petty said it's because it's probably got a different milled head, or Stapleton said that.
I don't know anything
I'm
about
not
these. It wasn't
sure
me.
about that.
No, it was Timmy Petty. I thought it was, but I had told you about it. There might have been a difference.
Here, you can take that
Yeah.
instead of back.
So the difference being was that when you start it, you can hear the difference from the left to the right side. And Timmy said this might be the way the head was ported on it.
See, Bobby Unser ran one of my cars, but I don't guess it was this car. That Michigan. It wasn't this one.
Well, I figured if you were going into stories, I'd just turn this on, and you wouldn't have to tell us
okay.
2 times.
So,
What was the first thing you noticed when you looked in here?
yeah, I mean, I just happened to look in there and seen that ignition box, and none of them had the electronic ignition. No, it was a black box before. It was from a Pontiac.
Right.
I think the GM cars, the Pontiacs might have had it, maybe some of them first, I think. So that distributor's got a great big round sleeve around it that fits in this Chrysler block. A lot of them in those days, they drop out of the race with ignition problems.
Right.
I never had that problem. Tom Ingram helped me with some engines back in those days, Jack's brother. But I just still believe that this was Dewey's engine. And see, that's all the bigger water hoses we had in those days. I mean, yeah, there ain't much changed on it, I can tell you that. Like maybe nothing.
Dave, if you don't mind, how about autographing it for us?
I should put my original number there.
Yes,
That was
sir.
on this car,
Yes, sir.
number 30. And you know, that was the nicest lettering on any car in them days. That was all 3D lettering. And the original lettering on this car was done by Dexter out of Chicago, Illinois, who was a big pinstriper and a painter in those days, and a sign painter. And he came down to Nichols Engineering and lettered this car.
So when you ran this car, were you still based out of Wisconsin?
No, I moved down, let me see, was I all moved down? When was that first race when we went to Talladega and we didn't race? What date or month?
69.
69, yeah.
It was May of,
But
I
I
think it
mean-
was May of 69.
Was it May?
I think so, yes, sir.
You know, that was my first full-time year in NASCAR. I left with the others from the racetrack. Milt Lunda from Lunda Construction Company in Black River Falls, Wisconsin, was sponsoring the car, and he bought all the A.J. King Enterprises, all their equipment. Jim Ruggles had the A.J. King Enterprise cars at Daytona, and he made a deal with Milt Lunda. If we bought the team before the race, we would get that percentage. So we gambled on it and bought it. So actually Milt Lunda owned that team when Pete Hamilton was driving that car in that race at Daytona. Now, I'm not sure if this was the car.
So this car had a history before you drove it, even? Like it had done other things?
Yeah. So then when they were trying to meet that quota for to be 500 production cars for this car to be legal to run in NASCAR, I was called, I can't remember if it was from Ronnie Household or Chrysler Corporation, to bring this car up to Highland, Indiana to Nichols Engineering. They were going to switch it into a Dodge Daytona for me because they needed to count the car in the 500 number. So I took this up to Highland, Indiana, Nichols Engineering. I stayed there and worked with them on it, and I never left Nichols Engineering till Thursday of race week and went straight to Talladega. I didn't even go back to my house in North Carolina. I just took the car, unloaded it. It was Thursday already. Everybody else had been there all week. So we were hearing how good they were running, how fast they were running. The tires weren't holding up. You know, both tire companies had problems because those bias ply tires, I guess, couldn't expand enough in the centrifugal force, and they were coming apart. So I went on the racetrack and just took an easy lap, warmed up, and my second lap, when I brought it up to speed, was 197 miles an hour, and the right front tire flew apart. But I felt the vibration coming, got slowed down, and I didn't wreck. When everyone else left, I went with them because that was my first full-time year in NASCAR. I called Milt Lunda that morning from Talladega and told him, and he said, well, we can't leave. We sent an entry blank in. So he said, well, you know, you need to stay there and race. And I said, well, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to leave. I'm not sure. Well, I left it at that with him. And I'm to myself like, Richard Petty's leaving, Bobby Ellison, Donnie Ellison, Cale Yarbrough, Leroy Yarbrough, David Pearson, everybody's leaving. And I'm just getting a start in this sport. And if I stay here and run in this race, how am I ever going to become or make it in the sport when everybody's mad at me? Every driver there was leaving. So I left with them, and that was my reason. I sat down after that with Mr. Bill France Sr. and talked to him about it, and he told me that he understood my situation, and he pretty much excused me for leaving. I mean, I know he had all his money in that deal, and that racetrack it is a great racetrack. I love Talladega, but he said that he understood my situation, trying to get started in the sport and everybody hate me. I mean, the guy that stayed there and won the race, how popular did he ever get? So, and years later, I think in 1975, we were at Talladega, and I was driving the K&K Insurance Dodge, and Bill France Sr. pulled up in the pits and rolled the window down in the car and motioned me over, and I went over. He said, "Are you busy right now?" And I said, "No, we don't have no practice till like 3 o'clock this afternoon." He said, "Hop in the car." I got in his car, and he drove me over to a place in, I think it was in Talladega, the city, or somewhere over there, wherever the clothing place was. But where was it called Palace Clothers or something?
Yeah, I think I remember that.
And I know he bought a lot of his clothes there, and he took me in there and bought me a pair of dress pants and a shirt and a sport coat. So when we went to functions and stuff, so I'd be dressed up, because I didn't have no really dress. Hell, I didn't have no money in them days. And so I think if he would have held against me for leaving there, he would have never done that.
Where'd the shoes come from?
The shoe deal started with, we get our feet burnt in these cars, the big block cars, the 427 Chevys, the 420 cubic inch Chrysler Hemis, and them exhaust pipes right under the floorboard. And on all the short track races, our heels would get burnt in the car. And we were at North Wilkesboro, and Bobby Allison from the previous week, I can't remember what track we ran at, it might have been Bristol, he burned his foot really, really bad. And Richard Petty, I think Cale Yarbrough, myself, and David Pearson were standing together on pit road at Wilkesboro, and Bobby comes walking up pit road limping really bad. I made some comment about poor Bobby can hardly walk. And Pearson said if he'd wear a decent pair of shoes, he wouldn't burn his feet. And I said, well, what do you wear? He said, shoes with leather soles. And he wore penny loafers is what he wore. And he said, don't you have any shoes with leather soles? And I said, yeah, my dress shoes. They're wingtips. And he said, where are they? I said, they're out there in the suitcase in the trunk of the car, because, we were staying in a motel. He said, well, go get them and wear them. I went and got them and wore them that day and didn't burn my feet. The race fans picked up on it. And yet today, when I go sign autographs, just the other night in Mooresville at the Stocks for Tots, signing autographs, the people come by, have you got them wingtips on? So I have to hold them up like that, and they take a picture of them. It's unreal.
Better than the
The race fans, how loyal
than the King's
to
Cowboy
the
hat,
sport in those days was unreal. Unreal.
Yeah.
But yeah, they still ask me about them. So now when I go sign autographs somewhere, I wear them.
And the Goodyear hat, right? It's the
And the
wingtips
Goodyear hat.
hat.
Goodyear helped me. Everybody thinks they gave me all my tires. They did not give me all my tires. The year that they really, really helped me, 1970, I think it was, Firestone got into sport and came up with a huge point fund if you ran on Firestone tires all year long. Goodyear helped us, several little teams, and I had to run a Goodyear tire store ad on my race car for the year, and they supplied me X number of dollars worth of tires. And if we exceeded that number, then we'd have to buy them after that. And that basically, I guess, probably kept me in the sport and in business in 1970. I did exceed that quota a little bit, but they still took care of me with tires. And so just the people at Goodyear, I mean, they just They were good people to me. They helped me, and I needed the help, severely needed the help. I didn't have the money. You know, I got used tires from lots of race teams many years. I'd even get them from them during the race when they'd take a set off. Like if they put a new set on a caution and we'd go out and just run 10 laps or so and there'd be another caution, all the big teams put new tires on. I would get some of them that they took off from the previous pit stop during the race. I remember one day at Darlington, race day morning, Helen was standing by the pit crew and everybody had all their tires, big piles of tires. I think maybe I had 2 sets of tires there. And Helen was standing there, my wife. Dale come walking down pit road. He stopped by Helen. He said, "Helen, you're going to have to get off that pocketbook and buy Dave some tires." I'll never forget that. She didn't know what to say. But he and I were just good, close friends, very close friends. And he never failed to give Helen a hug when he was in that garage and she was in there. He went out of his way to come over there and give her a hug. So
This was our first time meeting Dave. I've been wanting to meet Dave for a long time. He always seemed such an interesting guy, and that doesn't disappoint. Dave is the coolest dude. Like, he's fun to listen to. He's great at telling stories. He talks loud enough that it makes my life easy editing the video after it's being filmed. We didn't even have to use a microphone for him. What I'm really excited to do is another video with Dave about his race shop and what he's doing today. So you can stay tuned for that coming up in the next couple months. We got some really cool things in the pipeline. And we've got some really cool things that have already been filmed. We got Waddell Wilson revisiting Holman Moody, looking at all the old machines and stuff that he used to use back in the day. If you want to support history, you can go to stapletonautowworks.com and check out the shirts and hats we have. We just got these in pretty recently. I always thought the Stavola Brothers logo was freaking awesome, and my last name also starts with STA, so it kind of looks like it's supposed to be there. And really like these gold Buicks, so we made one.
I like the metallic on it. That's really cool. You don't really see that on shirts very often.
No, it's unique. And we got matching hats for those shirts too, which all of them are actually at the Winston Cup Museum right now. By the time most people see this video, the Winston Cup Museum will already be closed, but it will live on forever in digital format. And I think that's the best thing we could possibly do for it. The best is still on the horizon, though. There's going to be some more really cool things coming up. Don't forget to check and make sure you subscribe with the notifications on so you see when we post stuff. If you're still not seeing when we post stuff, hit thumbs up and comment on this video. That's how the system determines what you're interested in and what you're not. So the more you interact with us, the more likely you are to see new videos. And if you comment quickly in the first couple days, there's almost 100% chance I'm going to respond to it. So speak up down there.
It's 110 degrees, you're eating a bushel of crabs.
yeah, well, that was the place to get the good crabs. We used to go to some place up there along the river somewhere, and it was just an old place, and they'd spread newspapers across the table, and they'd bring a bushel of those crabs and set them on the table. And
Yeah, what was that place? It was what was the name of that place?
I think Elma Lange took us over there the first time I went.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name.
I remember.
It was in one of the little backwater bayous.
Yeah, it was right there, and it had the picnic tables and it just had butcher paper over the top of it.
Yeah, and they just dumped that basket of crabs on the table.
That's where we went.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of good times in the old days. And all the teams traveled together, up and down the highways. We stayed in the same motel.